Daniel Morgan had lived most of his adult life carrying the weight of responsibilities he never expected. Once, he had been a dreamer, an aspiring musician who believed life was meant to be spontaneous and full of joy. But those days had ended the moment he lost his wife, Anna, to a sudden illness 3 years earlier. That loss had left a void in his chest so deep that music, laughter, and even the little things like late-night walks in the park all seemed like fragments from another lifetime. Now his world revolved around one person, his daughter Lily. At 9 years old, Lily was bright-eyed, inquisitive, and far too clever for her age. She had Anna's golden brown hair and Daniel's dark, thoughtful eyes. Most days, Daniel woke up before dawn, made breakfast, packed her school lunch, and rushed to work at the auto repair shop where he labored long hours. But no matter how tired he came home, he always tried to make time for Lily. Yet there was one thing they constantly clashed over: chess. Lily had discovered the game at school when her teacher brought out an old chessboard during recess. While other kids groaned about boring puzzles, Lily's mind lit up. She was fascinated by how every piece had its own power, its own path, its own way of changing the game. That very night, she came home excited, begging her father to buy a chessboard. At first, Daniel thought it was harmless fun. He bought her a second-hand set from a thrift store and showed her the little he remembered from his own childhood. But soon, he realized Lily's fascination wasn't just play, it was an obsession. She practiced moves on her own, studied beginner chess books from the library, and even stayed up late sketching out positions in a notebook. "Daddy, did you know the queen is the strongest piece on the board?" she said one evening, her voice brimming with excitement. "Yeah, but don't forget," Daniel chuckled. "The king is the one who matters most." "But the queen can protect the king," she insisted. "It's kind of like how Mom protected you and me." That comment had left Daniel speechless. He didn't want chess, this complicated competitive game, to become a reminder of loss or worse, a source of hurt. He wanted Lily to have a normal childhood, climbing trees, riding bikes, laughing with friends, not spending hours bent over a board with black and white pieces. When Lily asked about entering a local junior tournament, Daniel put his foot down. "Sweetheart," he said gently but firmly, "you're too young for that kind of pressure. People can be mean, especially when they lose. I don't want you to get hurt." "But I won't get hurt, Daddy," she argued. "I'll just play, that's all." "No, Lily," he said, his tone sharper than he intended. "I'm saying no." Her little shoulders slumped. For the first time in weeks, she didn't touch the chessboard that night. But children are resilient and stubborn. A week later, Lily heard about a big chess exhibition happening at the town hall. Flyers were posted all over. An evening with the city's finest chess masters featuring special guest, Alexander Grant, CEO of Grant Technologies. Grant Technologies was a major firm in the city, known for sponsoring educational programs, and their CEO had once been a champion chess player in his youth. The event promised open seats for challengers, including children. "Daddy, please," Lily begged, holding the flyer in both hands like it was a golden ticket. "Just let me go. I don't care if I win. I just want to try." Daniel hesitated. He saw the spark in her eyes, the same spark Anna used to have when she talked about painting or music. He felt his heart twist. All his life since Anna's death had been about protecting Lily. But maybe, just maybe, he was protecting her too much. After a long silence, he sighed. "Fine, but I'm staying with you the entire time, and if you feel uncomfortable, we leave, deal?" Lily's face lit up, and she threw her arms around his neck. Deal. The night of the exhibition, the town hall was buzzing. Chandeliers sparkled overhead, and rows of chessboards were neatly arranged on long tables draped in white cloth. Players of all ages sat nervously, waiting for their turn against the masters. Some had notebooks, others whispered strategies to themselves. Parents hovered nearby, snapping photos or packing anxiously. Daniel felt out of place. He tugged at the collar of his only decent shirt and looked around at the crowd of well-dressed professionals and polished chess enthusiasts. Meanwhile, Lily bounced on her toes, her excitement bubbling over. "There he is," someone whispered. All heads turned as Alexander Grant entered. The CEO was a tall man in his late 40s, his hair streaked with silver, his presence commanding. Cameras flashed as he shook hands with organizers. Though he wore a suit that probably cost more than Daniel's monthly salary, his eyes carried a weight, a sadness that seemed to linger even behind his polite smile. When the games began, Daniel leaned down to Lily. "You don't have to do this, you know. We can still leave." His voice was almost pleading. But Lily shook her head firmly. "I want to try." She walked to the nearest open seat, and by fate or chance, it was directly across from Alexander Grant himself. Daniel's heart nearly stopped. "Oh no, Lily, maybe." But it was too late. She had already slid into the chair, her small frame barely reaching the table. The pieces were lined up neatly in front of her, the board like a battlefield waiting for the first spark. The crowd murmured. A 9-year-old facing the CEO. Surely this would be over in seconds. Alexander Grant looked down at her, his eyes narrowing slightly. "You want to play against me?" he asked, his deep voice echoing. Lily nodded without hesitation. "Yes, sir." For a brief moment, something flickered in his gaze, amusement, maybe even curiosity. Then he gestured to the board. "White moves first." Daniel stood behind his daughter, his palms sweaty, his throat tight. He wanted to pull her out of the chair, shield her from embarrassment, keep her safe in the small world he could control. But she was already looking at the board with a calm focus he had never seen before. Without hesitation, Lily picked up her pawn and pushed it forward. The first move. And just like that, the game began. The pawn slid forward with a soft click, a sound so small yet powerful enough to silence Daniel's heartbeat. Lily sat upright, her little fingers still poised in the air as if the move had carried more weight than she realized. Across the table, Alexander Grant studied her, one eyebrow raised. The CEO had faced countless opponents in his life, world-class players, stubborn amateurs, even digital algorithms designed to mimic grandmasters, but never a child who looked so utterly fearless. He smiled faintly, almost indulgently, and mirrored her move with his own pawn. The game was underway. At first, Daniel told himself it was harmless. Lily would play a few moves, stumble into a trap, lose gracefully, and they would go home. But as he watched her, he realized his daughter wasn't just playing. She was seeing patterns. Every move she made wasn't random or hasty. It was deliberate, part of a bigger plan unfolding in her sharp young mind. "Careful now," he whispered under his breath, but Lily didn't hear him. Her eyes were locked on the board, her lips pressed together in a line of fierce concentration. Around them, the other games faded into background noise. Parents and players began to notice the intensity at their table. Some even paused mid-game to peek at the little girl holding her ground against the city's most powerful man. The pieces danced across the board. Knights leapt, bishops sliced across diagonals, pawns advanced like tiny soldiers. With each turn, Lily's confidence grew. She leaned forward, her brows furrowing, studying every possibility before lifting a piece with delicate precision. The CEO, on the other hand, began to shift in his seat. At first, he had played casually, expecting a quick win. But soon, he found himself leaning closer, scrutinizing the positions, his once relaxed expression tightening into seriousness. This wasn't just a child's lucky streak. This was strategy. Real, clever strategy. Daniel's heart pounded, his hands clenched and unclenched at his sides. Pride swelled inside him, but so did fear. What if she lost now? What if everyone laughed? What if this broke her spirit instead of building it? But Lily never faltered. She sacrificed a pawn, then lured a rook into a trap. The crowd gasped softly when she captured it, and Daniel felt his knees weaken. He had never seen his daughter so alive, so unstoppable. The CEO's face changed as the minutes stretched into half an hour. His polished mask of composure began to crack. He tapped a finger on the table, stared at the board, then at Lily. She reminded him of someone, a face he hadn't allowed himself to remember for years. His daughter. Once upon a time, she too had loved chess. She had played with the same spark, the same daring moves that defied logic but worked brilliantly. She used to giggle every time she surprised him, shouting check, with a grin that melted his stern businessman exterior. But she had been taken from him too soon, an illness that money couldn't cure, power couldn't prevent, and doctors couldn't outsmart. He had buried not only his child but also the game they once shared. Chess had become too painful, a reminder of joy forever lost. And now, across the table, this little girl was resurrecting it all. The final sequence began quietly. Lily tilted her head, eyes narrowed, then moved her knight with calm certainty. The CEO blinked, his mind racing. He countered with a rook, but Lily was already ready. Another move, another cut, until suddenly his king was trapped. "Checkmate," she whispered. The room went utterly silent. It took a moment for the weight of her words to settle. Then the murmurs began. She beat him. No way, the CEO, defeated. The disbelief rippled through the crowd like a wave. Daniel felt his legs buckle. He wanted to shout, to clap, to scoop Lily into his arms, but his eyes were locked on Alexander Grant. The CEO didn't move at first. His gaze was fixed on the board, on the little girl who had just dismantled his defenses with such innocent brilliance. Then, slowly, his hand rose to his face. He removed his glasses, and to the astonishment of everyone in the hall, his eyes glistened with tears. "My daughter," he whispered, his voice breaking. The crowd hushed. "I once had a daughter who played like this," he continued, his words trembling. "She was fearless, bold. She would never back down, just like you." He swallowed hard, his voice faltering as memories poured into the open wound of his grief. "But she's gone, and I thought I would never see that fire again." The hall was still. Daniel felt a lump rise in his throat. For years, he had carried his own grief silently, afraid to let Lily see how much he still hurt. But here was a man who had lost the same treasure, barring his pain in front of strangers. Lily looked up at the CEO, her innocent voice cutting through the heaviness. "I'm sorry about your daughter," she said softly. "But maybe she's proud you taught her. Maybe she's proud you still remember." Tears slipped down the CEO's cheeks. He reached across the board and took Lily's small hand in his. "Thank you," he whispered. "You've given me back something I thought I'd lost forever." Daniel's eyes blurred. He wanted to rush forward, to tell Lily how proud he was, to apologize for doubting her. And when she turned in her chair, grinning up at him with that unstoppable light in her eyes, he felt his heart crack open. All those years of keeping her safe, shielding her from the world, had been built on fear of losing her the way he had lost Anna. But Lily wasn't fragile. She wasn't meant to be hidden away. She was meant to shine, to surprise the world, to move pieces in ways no one expected. After the applause, after the cameras snapped and the whispers spread, Daniel knelt beside his daughter and held her close. "You were incredible," he whispered. "I'm sorry I ever tried to stop you." Lily hugged him back, her little voice muffled against his chest. "It's okay, Daddy. You just wanted to protect me." He kissed her hair, his voice breaking. "I don't want to protect you from who you are anymore. I want to be the one who helps you become everything you're meant to be." And as the CEO wiped his tears and placed a gentle hand on Lily's shoulder, Daniel realized this wasn't just about a chess game. It was about healing. For Lily, for the CEO, and for himself. Because sometimes, the smallest hands don't just move pieces on a board. They move hearts, they change lives, and they remind even the most broken souls that hope still exists. That night, father and daughter walked out of the town hall hand in hand. Daniel no longer saw Lily as a fragile little girl to be shielded. He saw her as something far more powerful, his daughter, his equal, and the brave queen on life's vast chessboard. And for the first time in years, he felt Anna smiling down on them both.